As South Africa marks National Albinism Awareness Month this September, medical experts are drawing attention to a pressing and often overlooked public health issue. Now, people living with albinism face significantly higher risks of sun damage and skin cancer, and this is due to extreme photosensitivity. Now, leading skin specialist Dr. Judey Pretorious is calling for urgent awareness and daily protection measures, stressing that for this vulnerable group, skin care is not a luxury, no, it's a matter of survival. Dr. Judey joins us now on the agenda. Thank you so much for your time this hour, Dr. Judey. So perhaps let's just start with understanding what albinism is, because I think at a surface level, many people think of it as purely a genetic condition affecting, appearance. From a medical standpoint, perhaps how important is it that we shift the public's understanding to see albinism as, a serious health as well as a survival issue?
Well, it's rightfully, as you said, albinism is a genetic disorder, but I want to emphasize that it's most certainly not a disease. It's not a fatal disease, and you cannot die for it. However, there are some health concerns that go along with albinism. And the first thing that I can say is you get two types of albinism that can be divided into subtypes. But basically it comes down to, the first one is oculocutaceous type of albinism. And this is where the hair, the eyes, and the skin is affected. There's no pigment that actually is produced in these areas. And then the second type of albinism that you get is the ocular albinism that primarily affects the eyes. So with the first type of albinism, where the hair, the eyes, as well as the skin is affected, it comes down to the fact that we as humans have skin cells called melanocytes that produce melanin and pigment. And with albinism individuals, they don't have these skin cells, they don't produce any pigment. And for you and me, for instance, that have these skin cells that produce pigment, it can also be regarded as a natural sunscreen. And what do I mean by that? If you and I were to spend today in the sun, we don't necessarily apply any sunscreen, and we burn that we're slightly red and there's sensitivity, then 2 or 3 days later we may struggle with what we call post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. And basically what that means is we're going to struggle with pigmentation on our skin. And this is indicative of the fact that the melanin that we produce actually is there to protect our skin against the environmental extremities. Now, with albinism, these individuals don't have that. They don't have that natural protecting agent, and this is why it makes them so much more vulnerable to environmental extremities, where they can physically, the skin burns, but there's nothing to help aid it. There's nothing to help block it and control the severity of that inflammation. Hence the reason why they are so much more susceptible and vulnerable to things like skin cancer. But it's not only just skin cancer, it's things like eczema, the atopic dermatitis, and just general sensitivity overall. And as this can happen with the skin, you can just imagine it's the same with the eyes, and even the hair, the scalp is also so much more vulnerable to environmental extremities.
And just as you speak about skin cancer there, just what are some of the gaps in early detection that might just, save a person's life, particularly when you look at some of the people that also walk into your practice on the day-to-day?
Well, a nice practical do that I can give to people, we like to refer, if you see a mole or an expression and so forth on your skin, we like to refer to what we call the ABCDEs. And let me explain a little bit further. So say, for instance, I see a mole on my hand right now. Then the first thing that I would like to check is is it asymmetrical? So in other words, if I draw a line through the mole right in the middle, does both sides look like each other or not? And typically we don't really want to see an asymmetrical type of shape. B would be the borders. Are the borders of that mole or that expression uneven? C is, do we see more than one color? Because we don't like to really see more than one color. D would be the dimensions. We typically don't want to see a mole or an expressions anything greater than 6 millimeters. And E would be evolving, So in a year's time, do you see that some of the moles that you have, do they evolve? Do they grow bigger? And this is why it becomes so important for people to go and have it checked out at the dermatologist.
And Doc, I like that you also stress protection, and given the realities of long commutes, some of the outdoor work that people do, as well as poverty in some of the downtrodden communities, just how practical is this advice without actual systematic support? And sunscreen, for example, can be life-saving, but it is also treated as a luxury product. How do we move about ensuring accessibility for all?
Well, I would definitely say, and I'd like to start, is, there is a stigmatism associated with albinism, and people are treated differently. But the fact of the matter remain is the human skin, if something is wrong with my skin, like I struggle with pimples or breakouts, then automatically I also retract from the society, and, I perhaps even will be treated differently by societal members. So with regards to albinism, is there's nothing wrong with these individuals' skin. It's like I said, it's not a disease, and there shouldn't be a stigmatism associated with them. But in terms of protection, these days, not just for albinism, we have to do what we have to do to protect our skin. Our human skin is a protecting organ for all our other organs, and I always tell people, what do you do to protect the protector? And yes, sunscreens are most certainly one of the most expensive cosmetic products that you find out there. But try to at least get clothing that, is a bit breathable. It's not too thick in texture. It allows to breathe, and try to wear clothing that really covers the arms and the legs. Without a doubt, wear a hat. Without a doubt, wear sunglasses to protect the eyes, because there will be a light sensitivity. Seek shade as much as you possibly can. Try to be indoors as much as you possibly can. But I would say the most practical route here is definitely the clothing. Try to find suitable clothing that you can wear both in the winter as well as the summer to protect your skin. And I don't necessarily advise this just for individuals who struggle with albinism. I advise this for the human species, because we live in highly polluted environments these days. It's not only the sun that causes damage to our skin. Even as you and I speak and I'm sitting in front of a laptop screen, the blue rays that emits from my laptop screen also can be regarded as a pollutant to my skin. So we need to do what we need to do to protect our skin as much as we possibly can.
And Doc, just for ordinary South Africans as a general one, listening today, what are some of the most meaningful ways they could contribute to this and carry these conversations beyond just Albinism Awareness Month, which is September, and just make this a 365-day sort of conversation that we are having?
I usually like to tell people I'm an academic at heart, and we actually culture skin in our laboratories for all different skin tones and types. And I like to refer to it Fitzpatrick 1. It's a fair skin tone and type. Albinism can be regarded as a Fitzpatrick 1, and a Fitzpatrick 6 is usually a darker skin tone and type. Interestingly enough, if we work with these skin cells and we culture these skin cells in a lab environment, the metabolic activity is exactly the same. The biochemistry is exactly the same. The physiology is exactly the same. So we shouldn't, differentiate so much by, saying this type of skin cell is different, etc., because everything remains the same. And we need to talk about these things to involve people. It's all that I like to tell people is that the human skin, if you were to interview the human skin today and my skin had an audible voice and could speak to you, the human skin would want, certain things to not be exposed to. For instance, I mentioned environmental extremities, but secondly, the human skin don't really like cosmetic products that contains fragrances and dyes and artificial artificial colorants. I like to tell people that the human skin is also known as an acid mantle, which means everything that we're supposed to apply on our skin from a cosmetic point of view should be pH balance, and try to refrain from ingredients when you buy cosmetic products. Turn it around, look at the ingredient list, and make sure that it doesn't contain anything like sulfates and methyl parabens and propyl parabens. Now, I know these are big words, but if people start with those smaller things, then perhaps they won't spend money on something that's actually a bit on the expensive side. They would make much more informed decisions. And if we can talk about the uniqueness of human skin, there's no human skin on this planet that's the same. We should celebrate the uniqueness of human skin, because your skin is as unique as your signature, as unique as your fingerprint. Everybody is different, and we need to celebrate that.
Skincare without breaking the bank. Listen, Doc, thank you so much for your time and insights right here on the agenda. That's Dr. Judey Pretorious joining us there to talk to us about skincare, and as well as Albinism Awareness Month, which is this September.